Tonight, we'll take 10 to talk about houses. You know, those ugly things that cavemen buy. Housing is a fundamental human need. When finding a place to live, we must answer a few basic questions. First, is this a place I feel comfortable in? For most people, that means working lights, warmth, and walls thick enough that they can hide the sounds of you crying when you realize that Tom Hanks might die someday. You know, the basic needs. Second, where is it? In many ways, where you live is more important than what you live in. It's the old adage of location, location, location. For some, that means finding housing with easy access to things like transit, jobs, and high-performing schools. Or, if you're a troll, that means finding a bridge with lots of foot traffic to stump people with your riddles. The third, and most important question, is can I afford it? And the answer for a growing number of Minnesotans is simply no. The Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development, or as we like to call it, Dr. Ben Carson's spinning plate factor, defines affordable housing as any home that does not cost more than a third of your income. So someone working full-time, earning the state minimum wage of $9.50 an hour, makes about $1,500 a month. Their housing situation would only be considered affordable if they paid about $500 a month or less for rent and utilities. If they pay any more than that, the government would consider them to be cost-burdened, meaning the cost of housing is so high that it limits their ability to spend money on other important things like food, clothing, and collector edition DVD sets of That 70s Show. Again, the bare necessities. The number of cost-burdened households in Minnesota has increased 69% between 2000 and 2014, totaling more than 600,000. Now, don't let yourself be confused by that sexy percentile, because 600,000 households translates to more people than the entire city of Minneapolis. All those people lack affordable options, and they'll never know what happens to Eric and Donna's relationship. I mean, do they get married? Do they have their own spin-off series? Or, like most Wisconsinites, do they do nothing and die? And Wisconsinites here. Many times, affordable housing is framed as an urban issue. But this is not just a problem for the Twin Cities. This map from the Minnesota Housing Authority shows that while urban areas have higher cost burden rates, even the state's most rural areas still reach close to about 35%. Regardless where you live, affordable housing is basically like the new Nintendo Switch. Everyone wants it, but finding one for a reasonable price can be next to impossible. I'm talking to you, Zelda Fan 420 from eBay. $600? You monster. But it's not just that there's not enough affordable housing to go around. Some existing affordable housing is actually being eliminated. Take what happened to the Crossroads at Penn apartment complex in Richfield, Minnesota, where a one-bedroom unit cost about $250 a month. In 2014, the property owner, Jim Soderberg, evicted the entire community and bulldozed it to make way for a new upscale apartment complex. After forcing hundreds of low-income residents from their homes to add insult to injury, they literally named the new apartment complex the Concierge. Sorry, let me try that again. The Concierge! The concierge, let's be real, the concierge sounds less like an apartment building and more like a reality show where hotel employees complete physical challenges to avoid being voted out the lobby. And I don't care what you say, I'm Team Remington all the way. The property owner Soderberg defended the change, explaining to the Star Tribune, quote, "When you get to the point where things are so run down, you start to attract undesirable residents." Thanks, Soderberg. I usually have to watch Scooby-Doo to find an evil landlord type, but here you are, and it's not even Saturday morning. Quotes like that are one of the reasons that affordable housing can be hard to find. Despite the fact that many people need affordable housing options, there's still widespread stigma against affordable housing units and the people living in them. And while this applies to all forms of affordable housing, nowhere is this more clear than with mobile homes. Terms like trailer trash paint a picture of mobile homes as being a cheap, low-quality building mainly occupied by raccoons on welfare. But if you want a more accurate picture, here's one. That's a mobile home in Sartell, Minnesota. Mobile homes are surprisingly overlooked despite the fact that there are more of them in Minnesota and nationally than all subsidized housing put together. They're like that one girl in a teen movie that no one notices until she takes her glasses off, except there's 50,000 of her. And the more we dug into this issue, the more we learned that mobile homes are actually pretty great forms of affordable housing. First of all, many residents actually own the structures they live in and only pay rent on the land, often less than $300 a month, which is the real price of a Nintendo Switch. Zelda Fam 420! Second, mobile homes are actually the most energy efficient homes you can buy, and many last for decades. They're like Teslas, except they're affordable, and they probably won't become self-aware and enslave their owners, aka the plot to Cars 3. And on top of all that, mobile parks are close to bus lines, transit stations, job centers, and are integrated into higher income towns and neighborhoods, meaning kids living there may have access to more well-funded schools. In the Twin Cities alone, there are over 8,000 children living in mobile homes, and 87% of them are in high-performing school districts. Yeah, 87%. Can you believe that? That's like if 87% of Minnesota athletes were on high-performing sports teams. It's hard to think about, I know. But that's the thing about mobile homes. Unless you live in one, you probably don't think very much about them. And when you do, chances are everything you think you know about them is wrong. Starting with the name. Most mobile homes aren't actually mobile. 80% of them never leave their initial site, and a majority of them today were built so long ago that not only are they too expensive to move, they are also too old to meet the requirements to move to a new park. Think of them like your high school friend Damien's music career. You can call it whatever you want, but that doesn't mean it's going anywhere. And when it comes to getting a loan from a bank, many types of mobile homes aren't even considered homes. Instead, they're considered private property, which means higher interest rates and less time to pay them off. It also means instead of being able to get a mortgage, you have to get a personal loan because many banks will not issue conventional mortgages to mobile homes built before 1976. In other words, it's really fucking hard to get financial assistance to purchase a mobile home. Gosh, it's almost like banks have it out for poor people. I mean, where do they find all the people to run these banks anyway? The concierge! So, mobile homes aren't technically mobile, and banks don't consider them homes. Everything about the name is inaccurate. That's like calling the Choco Taco authentic Mexican, or saying Michael Cera is an American treasure. He was born in Canada, and if you dug him up on a desert island, you should probably just cover him up back with sand. But there are still some challenges with mobile homes that we need to address. Remember when I said that one of the benefits was that residents get to own their homes? Well, that's true, but more than half of all residents still have to rent from the park owners. It's like paying for a cup of coffee, but only owning the coffee, which means the barista can still take the cup back at any time and pour the coffee all over your crotch. In situations like these, park owners have the ability to sell the park at any time, and residents have no choice but to move. Except remember, mobile homes aren't actually mobile, which means the homes that they own are more often than not demolished to make way for hotels, shopping centers, and ironically, smash burgers. Which begs the question, why is this happening? Well, in some cases, it's about redevelopment. As land becomes more valuable, park owners can make more money by selling to a developer than running a park. But before you assume that all park owners are terrifying greed monsters portrayed by Benedict Cumberbatch using motion capture technology, you should know that many owners actually live in the parks that they oversee, and in many cases are being forced to sell the park for literally the shittiest reason: the plumbing. Let me explain. In a city, all the pipes that run into your home are owned by the city. So if something breaks, the city can fix it using tax dollars. But in a mobile home, all the plumbing is privately owned, which means if something breaks, all the cost is on the owners. And since most mobile home parks in Minnesota are decades old and more plumbing systems are deteriorating, the cost to fix these could be as much as $1 million. So if you're a park owner and you can afford to fix your pipes, you may be forced into shutting your park down, which is insane. Imagine if you lived in a small town and one day the mayor said, "Bad news, Jimmy's kid flushed a bunch of balloons down the toilet. So you know what that means? Time to burn all this shit down and start over." Damn you, Dustin. You fucked it up for all of us. The only time plumbing should pose this big of a threat is if you're playing Super Mario. Or if someone's hitting you with a pipe. But that's not the point. But if you think of this issue as always about plumbing bills, you'd be wrong. Take Waite Park, where the Tri-County Mobile Home Park closed last year to make way for a hotel. The city of Waite Park wanted to remove this mobile home community so badly, they spent over $4 million in taxpayer money to get the process moving. $4 million. That's enough money to buy like 6 Nintendo Switches. Zelda fan 420. Why are they trying so hard to destroy these communities? Well, it comes back to that idea that mobile homes and their residents are undesirable tenants. And while there are policies and law changes that would support those living in mobile home communities, they will never happen if the stigma surrounding mobile homes persists. And changing the stigma is often just a matter of getting a new perspective. And the first way to do that is by renaming mobile homes into something else.
Welcome, come on in.
It's a phenomenon sweeping the country. People trading in their big homes for tiny homes.
That's right, tiny homes. Tiny homes are becoming very popular with people wealthy enough who can afford ridiculously large homes. There is even a show called Tiny House Nation where rich people try living in tiny homes.
Man, I tell you what, I really like this one.
I agree. I think this is gonna be big.
It's about to get bigger! Let's do a tiny house party!
With the fans coast to coast, if you ask me, who you're gonna meet, where you...
Yep, you saw that correctly. You're not having a stroke. That was Lil Jon throwing a tiny house party. And the more we researched the tiny house phenomenon, the more familiar it began to look.
I consider the community space outside the front door of their tiny house their living room.
Look at that! Look at that! That's literally a mobile home park, but the only difference is that there are rich people living there. It's clear that all we need to do is call mobile homes tiny homes, and then there's no way developers will ever demolish them. Instead, you know what will probably happen? Cafes and art galleries will pop up. Shia LaBeouf will move in. And maybe, just maybe, someone will pay for the actual plumbing. And pretty soon, they'll have to find a new name for the entire community. And may I humbly suggest the Cold Stay nice, Minnesota. Thank you.